Welcome back to Fenrir Canine Training. On today's video, I'm going to be answering some more of your questions to help you become a higher level canine leader that can raise better canine companions. Welcome back, guys. If you are new here, my name's Will. I'm a canine behaviourist and I'm the founder of FenrirCanineLeaders.com. This is my wonderful wife, Rachel. And on this series, you guys have asked questions over on Instagram. Rachel saved them all and then she's going to pick out a couple, maybe three if we've got time. She's going to ask me and then I'm going to give you my answers. It can be about training, behaviour, psychology, business. Nothing's off the table, and I'll be open and honest and hopefully help you in any way that we can. So, without further ado, I'll hand it over.
I was just thinking, no one's asked us any like really mean business questions yet. Anything too? No, nothing's been too personal.
Yeah, feel free. Any questions? If we can help you, that's what we do here at Fenrir. No, go on. First question.
First question is how to get a more reliable recall.
Recall. Okay. Right, I'm going to have to tell you now, Rachel, make sure I don't waffle, because this could be 4 hours if you don't stop me.
He's going to waffle, and he's going to be tough love.
Yes. So, if you're asking this question, it's because you've already got a bad recall. If you've already got a bad recall, your recall is ruined, and you're not going to get that back. And it's your fault, by the way. That's the tough love part of it. You've already made a monumental mistake. But don't worry, because you're not alone. And recall is one of the hardest things to teach a dog, especially for the everyday owner that just wants a good companion, that you want to be able to let it off its lead and have a run around when you go out for a nice walk, but it will come back to you. Now, you need to understand that recall is... there's so many layers to this, and I really don't want to make it last 4 hours. But... most people utilize recall to remove the dog away from something that the dog finds very interesting or stimulating. Usually it might be chasing a squirrel. Sully loves to chase squirrels, and when I recall him away from that, he will do it because we have a perfect recall, but it sucks. It's, oh man, I wanted to chase that squirrel. That was really fun. Now, to get to that level where you can get a dog to turn on a dime from chasing a squirrel or from playing with other dogs at the dog park and it won't come back to you, or just running through the thickets, whatever it is that your dog isn't coming away from, to get to that level where they'll do it it is a very difficult challenge, and it is an example of high levels of obedience. Now, you need to understand that dogs do not speak English. I don't know if you didn't know that, but they don't. So if you're one of those people that's at the dog park and your dog won't come back to you and you're running around, flapping your hands in the air, shouting a name, telling them to come back over and over and over again, and they're ignoring you, they're not like, you can't get there and tell them off and communicate that with them. They have made a decision at that point. They know what you mean, because you've done the proofing of recall, probably in a distractionless environment, and they'll do it for a treat, but now they're out and about, and whatever it is that's distracting them, playing with dogs, chasing squirrels, is much more fun to them than you bringing them away and removing them from that fun stimulus, even if there's a little hot dog involved. So what we have to do is get to a point where a dog will accept that it will bring itself away from that stimulus. Now, what people do is, to achieve that, we have to have 100% success rates. In my Perfect Puppy course, I talk about this at length, and it's why recall is the longest part of the course, that we take the slowest and we build up the most gradually. So writing proper grammar, we build it up gradually because we have to ensure 100% success. If we're working on a sit and stay and the dog chooses to, we can enforce that. The dog's right in front of us, or they're on a lead, and we can lure them into the position, we can push them into the position, we can ensure that they don't fail. When the dog's 100 meters away, we've got no way of ensuring that success, which is why we have to make it super reliable. Now, this isn't about how to teach recall originally. That's all covered in my Perfect Puppy course. If you're at this stage, it's because your recall is broken. So whatever you've been using, whether it's their name, I don't know, Sully come here, whatever it is, that's gone, and we need to remove it, and we need to start completely from scratch with a fresh new command. And I usually recommend at this point using whistle training, and we need to go all the way back to reassociating, because like I say, if you're using Sully come and they're not doing it, that's ruined, that's gone. They already know that they can make a decision to ignore that command, and it's kind of down to them. So there's two layers there. Again, I'm going to really try and be quick. First layer is that they're making a decision to ignore you. That's a red flag to me. That shows a breakdown in communication and relationship, especially if you know the dog understands the command and then is choosing to ignore it. You have an issue there because they're making that decision. So you need to address your leadership. That's where something like my boot camp protocol can come in handy. Again, we could talk about hours on that topic itself. The second then is that command has broken because it's been failed so many times that it isn't associated with 100% success. So what we now need to do is start from scratch with a new command that we can associate with 100% success. I like to use a whistle because many people haven't used a whistle, and you won't accidentally use a whistle day to day and accidentally break down that communication. So you might not be in the home and you might use those phrases in the home by accident and allow the dog by accident to ignore it, and it can just muddy the water. Or the kids. Yeah, that's a very common one when the kids are doing it and they're saying it 18 times.
Come here, Sully.
Yeah. That can very quickly break down a bomb-proof recall, where with a whistle, you can keep it somewhere away and it's only ever used, ever, for recall purposes. So we start again from scratch. We go to a distractionless indoor environment, dog on a long line, so that we can enforce success. We let them wander off, 2 pips on a whistle. Hopefully they come naturally because they're interested, but if they don't, we reel them in. As soon as they get to us, incredible levels of praise, reinforcement, treats, access to a toy, and then we do it again. Pip, pip, bring us back, boom, that's the best thing in the world. And we start that from that base level of understanding 2 pips on this means if you get your arse to me as quickly as possible, something incredible is going to happen. If you ignore it, I'm going to reel you in. And as to start with, we can still reinforce that, but once they understand it, we're not going to reinforce when we reel them in. We're then going to layer it up and reinforce when they do it quickly and with a quick step and they hustle to you. That's what creates a really good recall. But again, this is a very complicated process. But we build up that thing, and originally we always have our dog on a long line. Then we go to our garden, no distractions in the garden. Then we go to a park where there's no dogs. And then we go nearer dogs, but not in the middle of dogs, and they're still on a long line. So if at any point the dog ignores the pip, we can reel them in so that we know that 2 pips on a whistle 100% of the time has meant come to me. And when you do, something good's going to happen. And don't always then recall them in and then remove them from the fun situation. Recall them in and then use that recall to initiate something really fun. And hopefully you can make something equally as fun as the thing that they might not be recalling away from. That makes sense. I know I can tell I'm waffling.
Yeah. So what I would add to that is that the leadership factor is really key, because, for example, a lot of the time now, if we're walking Sully, you don't need to recall him, because if you carry on walking, he will just come back.
Yeah. He knows what I want because we have such a deep, strong relationship now. And it's one of those things, it's not to be big-headed or boast, but it's beautiful, isn't it? Isn't it a wonderful experience when I can walk, and you know where you're out we were out walking this morning with Sully and it happened. We walked past the bloke, he had 2 spaniels. I just keep walking, said hello to the bloke. Sully went and played with the spaniels. I didn't look back once because I knew that Sully would play with the spaniels. He'd look up, oh, my boss has gone, I've got to go, sorry guys, see you later. And then once you build up, but that just comes from that consistent dedication to leadership, relationship. And then when he comes back to me by himself like that, he gets rewarded. Oh, good boy, Sully, well done, nice one.
And I think as well, just once you've got to what you think is the end, it's never the end. Like, you still have to go back and reward them for the recall. Like, you reward Sully even now.
Yeah, I verbally reward him. I never take treats with me anywhere anymore because we have that relationship.
But perhaps as well, you know, when you talk about those stages of a puppy and like around 9 months, they get a bit more teenagery and want to answer you back and all that kind of thing. Then around that time is probably the time to start taking treats back out with you again.
I call it a tune-up. It's what I would do with, that's very common as a behaviourist, that we might find ourselves in a situation where someone's done work with a puppy, and during those puppy stages, they got any behaviour really good. They go into adolescence, they start to test boundaries, and then they start to see problems. And where's this come from? He used to be so good, and now he's doing all these bad things. One of my roles then would be to do a tune-up, and it's going like back to basics, reminding them of our expectations, and then firming up our boundaries and reinforcement. And in this circumstance, it's about using a long line to let them understand. So our tune-up is going to be going back to basics, teaching the recall on a whistle. We're going to make it a really fun, positive experience of working with you as their leader. That in itself is inherently and intrinsically rewarding for the dog. If you have a leadership problem, you're going to address that. While you're doing that, you can go through my boot camp protocol, and in that protocol there's time to work on obedience, and you can choose which areas you feel you need to work on. If recall is the one, spend that whole 1 month working on recall whilst you're going through the boot camp and restructuring that relationship, because it will make your relationship even better. And we're going to use the long line to enforce success and ensure 100% success. And like I say, we're going to start off dead basic and we're just going to build up on it slowly. But because we're using the long line, if we go, oh, we've gone too far here, that distraction was too much for him and he didn't come on the whistle and I had to reel him in, well, that's our limit right now. We need to drop back, ensure that our relationship is good and that that's enforced and very good. If not, work on that. And then if not, we just need to firm up this level a little bit more before we try it again at that level of distraction. But again, it's just, like I say, there's so many layers to that, and I hope, was there enough there for people to take definitely from it? So like I say, something like that is something that someone would come to me and book my services
and for. And recall is the hardest one.
Yeah, that would be something I could work with a client for a couple of months on, to really go from a bad recall to a perfect recall. Could take an hour a week with me, plus you putting in effort every single day to get to that level. So if through that kind of advice, it still seems like, I don't think I'm at a stage to be able to implement that kind of strategy, then my advice would then be to go and find a really good, high quality, balanced dog trainer that can have these levels of success.
Maybe you as well you can question why they need to be off the lead. You don't have to let your dog off the lead,
which again is why, if
you're anxious about it or you don't want to,
don't have them off the lead. You can exercise a dog more than adequately on lead. It's lovely to be able to have a dog off lead. It's nice, but you don't have to do it. And again, the tough love thing, if you can't do it, then that's your fault, and therefore you have a decision. Well, I don't let my dog off a lead anymore because he hasn't got a good enough recall, or you fix the issue. Either way, you have to make that decision. And again, if you go for the decision of I don't think I'm capable of doing that kind of, to be honest, a bad recall is probably more down the lines of a behaviour modification program than it is, because it's so complicated, than it is simply just dog training. And it's a complicated thing, it is a complex thing, and it is the hardest thing to master. And if you don't think you're there, you either need to employ somebody, or if you don't want to or can't afford to do that, then just don't have your dog off a lead. Just go for lovely walks. You can work on heel work instead and have a really pleasurable experience with your dog, with a nice dog working to heel on a loose lead. Yeah. Should we leave this episode with one question? Because I imagine that was quite long.
Lengthy, yeah.
We could do series and series on. If there's ever any questions, by the way, like that one, that would have been a good question with a little bit more detail, with a few more specifics of what exactly is happening.
That's difficult on Instagram.
I completely get it. Yeah, I do get it. But I just feel like I might not have helped that person as much as I'd like to. But
perhaps at some point we could, film with a dog.
Well, like I say, this channel is going to become me. So when we get our new puppy, we're going to be doing these Q&As still, but we're also going to be documenting how I train a puppy. So you're going to see a lot of recall work within that itself. Obviously, you can go and look at our Perfect Puppy course if you want to see the super detailed breakdown of that and when to do what. That's all over there. And we're also going to start documenting. It's something I've never done before, just out of kind of respecting people's privacy, but we are going to start. I'm going to offer my services for free to people if they are comfortable with me filming it and being able to utilize that, because a lot of people are embarrassed about severe behavior problems, but that's something we're looking at being able to set up and put on this channel as well. So there's going to be lots coming, but again, just put in the effort, become a high-level canine leader. That's the root and the essence of it all. And if you can do that, then everything else can be much easier. So I hope that was helpful. If you want to ask any more questions, like I say, I feel bad that I've not been able to help as much as I'd like to. But if you've got any other questions, come over on Instagram and you can ask them, and we want to make as many of these videos as possible. Like I say, it's something I really struggle with, because we just can't answer everything, can we? There's literally not enough hours in the day, so it does upset me when I can't help people, but I hope there was enough there. There was enough there, wasn't there? I hope there was. And if there was, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, get involved, help each other out as well. That's awesome. If you're watching this and you do have a really good recall, get involved in the comment section below, help each other. This community is incredible, and it doesn't just have to come from me. We can help each other. So that's an excellent thing to be able to do as well. So I'll sign off here. Thank you very much. I'll see you on the next episode of Fenrir Canine Training.